afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the forum. Today I'm going to introduce my friend Joe Leverich. Joe is a CPA. He graduated from the University of Utah and the Harvard Business School program, Owner, President, Manager, OPM. And he founded a CPA firm here in Salt Lake, and he works exclusively with private-owned businesses and has been partners in 2 other businesses that have been successfully sold. Joe is married, has 4 children, and 2 grandchildren. And when we were out, we were talking about how great it is to be grandpa. So let's give a warm welcome to Joe Leverich.
Thank you. Good. I had to write it for him so I get most of it correct. And I didn't write the part about the service stations because you guys don't even know what a service station is, because we have gas stations today. But service was a thing we used to do and render. And would render service to people, and when a car would pull in, what would we do, Rick? We would run out.
Windows, yeah. Man,
We would run out and say, "Man, may I fill it up with ethyl?" Ethyl was a brand of gasoline. And of course you'd say, "I have $5. We'd gladly put in the $5, but then what we would do is we'd wash the windows, check the tires. And why would we check the tires? Tires were unreliable in those days. So a lot of things have changed in my lifetime and Rick's lifetime. But we're here to talk about your lifetime and what you need to do to be successful. And that's very important. So we're all college students, is that correct? Oh, is that correct? Come on, let's get some hands up. And do we all have a major of where we're going to be going?
Yes.
That's pretty exciting. And are some of us going to go on beyond slick? We're going to go on and get a bachelor's degree? Or we're going to go on and get a master's degree? Are we going to go on and become a doctor? An attorney? No. So I'll share you my story, because my story is the only story that I can tell and tell it straight, because I don't know your story. So I had the privilege of serving in the military. And back in those days, it was kind of an indentured service situation, because it wasn't the volunteer military, it was the you're in. And so when I was in the military, I figured out a couple of things. And one of the things I figured out was I was an enlisted man. An enlisted man is the lowest rank there can be. And then there's these guys called officers. And the only difference between me and an officer was they had a college degree. I didn't have a college degree. Hadn't gone there, hadn't done that. Didn't have a college degree. But you know who told the officers what to do? The man who knew how and why, because the officers had gone to this, 90-day wonder schools, maybe even the Naval Academy. I was in the Navy. But they didn't know how to do what we were doing. So I ended up telling them. And I went, this is the dumbest thing in the world. I'm making 1/4 the pay. And by the way, when we had an opportunity to go get shot, they'd say, I need a volunteer. And they wouldn't point at them. It'd be, my group, our unit that would go out. And it would be, wow. And I didn't have a college degree. So I thought, after 4 years of that, the one thing I know I need to do is get a college degree. So I really encourage that you really think about getting a college degree. There's a lot of talk about, is it worth it today? And you have to make that decision. And one of the points I have on my outline is to know why. Simon Sinek, and he's a guy on YouTube, but why? Why do you need a college degree, and what's going to happen? It is the basis of your education and training. Jason, I think you asked me at the beginning when I introduced myself, did I know I was going to become a CPA? Now, when I was in the Navy for 4 years, doing a lot of unpleasant duties and challenges, but working for officers or underneath officers, I figured I want to go get a college degree because I want to be able to give instructions and orders as opposed to have to do the messy jobs. I didn't know what a CPA was. I did know I wanted to be a businessman. My dad was a businessman, as Rick said. Our parents owned service stations and some other things. So I did know I wanted to be a businessman. I had that figured out. I had no idea what an accountant did. So when I went to college, I wasn't the brightest student. In fact, I was in a program in high school called Cooperate and Graduate. Okay? So I was really caused a lot of problems. In those days, we call this juvenile delinquents. And so I was really kind of a bad student. But what I figured out in the Navy was all you had to do was work hard. So when I went to college, I really applied myself. If they said do 4 hours of homework, I was willing to do 6 or 8. Because I had that military training of working 52 weeks a year, 24 hours a day if needed to be. I had to do it. I was getting A's, pretty easy. I was kind of surprised how easy the A's were. So I'm in getting into my master's programs, or my upper division programs, and in the College of Business, accounting was what blowing out many of the students because people were having really struggled with accounting. It's a weird profession, I think. It's the whole theory and stuff is a lot of strange rules and hard to understand. They don't make sense unless you study them. So I was studying them and getting A's, but I'm going to go into management. And so my first management teacher, his name was Daniels, and amazingly Jack Daniels. And he says, if you want an A, which meant give him a bottle. So in the very first class, what Jack says is, so when you graduate from here, you're going to go be a life insurance salesman. So I was smart enough not to raise my hand, because I don't think much of sales. I don't know what you think, but the idea of being a salesman and a life insurance salesman, it'd be like selling knives door to door, alarm systems or something like that. I wasn't too interested in selling life insurance. So I went up and said, Mr. Daniels, can I talk to you? He says, yeah. He says, when you graduate from the University of Utah, you will go to work for one of the major life insurance companies. I said, wait a minute, I didn't get a college degree to go sell life insurance. He says, no, that's what all management graduates do. That day I withdrew from management. And that day, because I'd already registered for my accounting, pursued my accounting degree. Now, I didn't know what an accountant was. It didn't make any sense to me. As Rick had said, our parents owned service stations, and so my dad had a bookkeeper, and he did my taxes. I never did taxes. I didn't know what taxes were. I really honestly didn't know. Even in those days, a long time ago, we got a net paycheck and there's the withholding. We didn't understand what was all going on. And so I graduated in accounting. Got my first job, public accounting. I've been there ever since. A lot of years. And it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of challenge. It's not what you think. And that's the biggest challenge you have. You've picked majors based on what? Just like I did. I was getting A's. If you're getting an A, it must make sense, right? Does it make sense, Lynn?
A, well, not necessarily.
Well, you must like it. You're willing to do the homework. So that's how I picked my major. And when I got my first job, boy, it was just like being back in boot camp. I didn't know anything. And they all talk about training, and I went to work for the very prestigious national CPA firm, very prestigious. And they'd hand you the books and say, come back in 8 hours if you can't figure it out. And you're sitting there sweating bullets. Because you can't, it's Greek again, and it's way different from college. In fact, at the end of my first year of my public accounting career, I wanted to go back and sue the professors because they didn't teach me accounting. And that's very typical, because what they teach you is the ways to do it. What you have to learn is how to do it and why. So on my handout, I've got why. Why is so critical and important. Those of us who will know how will always work for those who know why and how. You have to know the why. Steve Jobs, one of the masters of why. And a person we can all relate to because it's in our era. We need to understand that is the most critical thing, is understand the why and go deeper and deeper and deeper. Because one day you're going to be practicing this for life. This is going to be your career. And here's what happens. In school, they give you a handbook. They give you questions and problems. They give you a test, and you turn in papers, and you get an A. You go to work for me, there's no handbook. I'll give you an assignment. I'll say, I want you to bring this home. Josh, I want you, and I'll sit down and talk to you for Oh, 5 or 10 minutes. I'm $320 an hour. That's what my billing rate is. $320 an hour. That's what I'm going to charge my customer. How many hours can I give you, Josh? 10 or 15 minutes. You got to be pretty fast with me. You got to be on page, here, paying attention. I'm going to give you the outline. I'm going to give you the papers I think you need. And Josh, make sure you come to me with not just questions, but ideas too. Do we understand each other? Yes. Now, my customers are the same way. So when I sit down with my customers, it's the same situation. These guys are making money. They're small businessmen, started with nothing in most cases. Some of them were, one of the guys had a garbage truck, and now he owns garbage trucks. You know, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, a lot of contractors we represent. And a lot of them started themselves just from nothing. One dump truck, one garbage truck, one apartment building. You don't have to start off with, who was the young lady that says, was it you, Lynn, that says you want to get enough money? Yeah. You start off small. You start off small. When I started my CPA practice, I had five accounts. I was going to make $25,000 a year. Now that's when $25,000 was worth a little bit more. But that's what I was going to make. We do over $2 million now. We have 20 accountants. And it's an intense business. Rick and I are supposed to go to lunch after this. I can't. I have a 2 o'clock appointment with a guy out of California on the phone with 2 other staff. And so it's that kind of a thing. Eat your lunch. And that's one of the points I make is that business is very, very controlling. One of the points I have is work-life balance, number 7. There's a lot of talk about work-life balance. We have a lot of thoughts about when I graduate, when I have my career, when I'm doing these things, I will be able to. No, you can't. I own my own damn company. You know, I can't. And why can't I? Because the guy from California needs to talk to us at 2. Period. That's when he's available. He's coming in next week with us, with 3 people. We have to be ready and there. You have to show up big. And big is really big. Because when he meets with us, we'll be charging him $1,800 an hour. So you can't, I want you to imagine sitting with somebody who said, well, didn't finish the homework, didn't get my paper in on time, didn't read the chapter, didn't read the book. You know what he's going to say? And he said this to one of my guys one time. We were sitting in a meeting, and this is a 7-year man, CPA, really qualified. He says, you're dismissed. Okay, let's keep talking. The kid didn't quite know what to do, the young man didn't quite know what to do. And I said, stand up and leave. He was dismissed. Why? I'm not paying you $250 an hour if you can't contribute and be paying attention. So in my industry, my business, on those kinds of situations, it's that way. That's what you've got to be willing to do. Now, that sounds like fun, huh? What do you think, William? Now, I didn't know that when I graduated. When I graduated, what happened, this is what happened. I graduated, and they gave me this thing called ledgers. And you go through and you do the accounting thing, and they call them journal entries and debits and credits and whatever the other rules are. I remember them all, because I still have to train my people, and that's what they give you. That's what you do the first few years. And then one day you're given a chance to work with somebody and talk with them, and you find out other things you can do. So as an example, last Friday I met with a businessman. He just sold his business in Colorado for $6 million. We're talking about how to invest his money. I'm not an investor, I don't know how, but I had some ideas. He's with his son. And his son says, you know, my dad's got a memory issue. Well, what is it? And, you know, Thursday, the day before is Thursday, Thanksgiving. He says, well, I couldn't remember 2 of the names of the ladies there. So I called Scottsdale, Arizona. They have a Mayo Clinic right there while he's sitting with me. I scheduled an appointment to go to Mayo Clinic for a 3-day intense physical. Why would I do that? Because he's got a memory issue. He's concerned, you know. He doesn't know what's happening. I'm not paying for it, he's paying for it. But why does he think I'm so good? Because right then, I called Mayo Clinic, I made an appointment. Right then. You have to have those kinds of guts to do that kind of a thing. Now, I'm confident of myself, that's pretty obvious. I wasn't that way to begin with. So when I got into this profession, I was like you. In fact, Rick didn't tell you this, but I used to stutter. That was one of my problems. I was afraid of public speaking. I was afraid of standing up and telling you my position. I kind of wanted to go, well, maybe, could have, type of a thing. And then finally you have to learn how to speak up and speak out and become intense. Yes, sir?
Was your stutter before the military or after?
It was before the military, Charles.
So you nipped it in the bud after you got
I nipped it in the butt before that because it was really affecting me. I also spoke like a character called Elmer Fudd, and so I couldn't say my R's, and I had to learn how to say that. I took a lot of English and speech classes in high school voluntarily to get past that. And so one of my points is this. Because I had that speech issue and that challenge, what did I do? I did everything I could not to raise my hand in class, not to speak. I couldn't do any of those things without doing that. My point is you can learn skills. It's on my handout. You can learn skills and develop them. Now, a lot of people think you can't because I think we're born with those. We're born to be craftsmen. We're born to be an accountant. We're born to be a speaker. We're born to be, no, you're not. You're born with everything. And you've got to convince yourself that you can learn. Now, will it be easy? Hell no. You're going to really struggle with this. It's not easy. Mr. Lambert and I were kind of laughing because we're both at that age. I'm facing retirement. Now, you can imagine with where I'm talking and stuff, what do? I work. That's what I do. I work. That's what I know how to do. That's what I'm good at. I've owned 8 different properties. That's what I do. I don't know how to hold a golf club. I don't know how to repair my sprinklers. That's all done for me. People do things like that for me. My Christmas lights are up. People put them up for me. I don't put them up. I don't have time. I'm $320 an hour. I can have my Christmas lights hung for a lot cheaper than that. Now, I used to hang them. But, I do want my Christmas lights up. And so the point is you learn these things and you learn skills. And you have to be willing to learn them, and it's scary. And so I'd like to tell you I got my life figured out. I am like you, because I asked one of you about, I think it was you, did you have your major? Yeah, Jason. And you said, are we supposed to know that? Well, the honest answer is you're not. And the odds are, whatever your major is, you'll be an unbelievable person if you stay in it. I'm a very unique guy because I graduated in accounting and stayed in accounting. But I stayed in accounting because I went into this thing called public accounting. Why did I go into public accounting? Been to Alaska, went to Texas, a lot of fun working in public accounting firms, CPA firms. And when I returned to Utah, I discovered something I didn't understand. We have very few mid-sized to big businesses. So we have big businesses, Zions, Rio Tinto, now the Miller Group, he used to be a little business, but he's a big business now. We have big businesses, and then we have a lot of small businesses. And you know how many of those small businesses need to hire a CPA controller guy and pay him a good wage?
every single one of them.
Not many. Almost none. That's the problem. So that's why I decided to stay in public accounting. And then I figured out, and I'd like to tell you I had all this figured out. I discovered this. Putting numbers on a tax form or creating a financial statement, that's a commodity. And what's a commodity worth? Price of gasoline today, right? If I can buy it across the street for 2 cents less a gallon, I've gone. I didn't even think about it. I went across the street. So if you choose in your career to be a commodity, and you can do that unintentionally by only knowing what to do, only knowing how to do it, not knowing why. But if you decide to know the why and taking the risk and get out there and challenge yourself, then you too can be something other than a commodity. $3.20 an hour was not easy to go to. That was not an easy thing to set. No one sets my price. I don't know how to set my price. I'd like to tell you there's a formula, sure. But, I was at the old billing rate too long, and we sat down one day, and they said, what do you got to do to make it scary for you? And I was at 275 for 10 years. And I said, wow, what do I got to do to make it scary for me? 300 is not scary. That's just $25 more. I said, 320 is scary. And then I had to go to my two associates and say, so if I'm going to go to 320, what are you going to go to?
What was I making before, 250?
Yeah.
I want 285.
No, it's not good enough.
Am I good enough?
No. I want scary.
Oh, you want scary?
300.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's what you got to be willing to do. And then what happens though is this. You've got to deliver. I mean, you've got to deliver. This has got to be as good as the best department store or the best dinner out or the best vehicle or the best vacation. You've got to deliver. Now I'm delivering I'm delivering a piece of paper. I give my customers a tax return. It's a piece of paper. I give them a financial statement. It's a piece of paper. I have some smart customers, but none of them graduated in accounting or tax. Not one of them. Well, two, excuse me. And a couple of engineers who are very smart and good with numbers. But most of them have to look at that piece of paper and say, so Jason, how did I do last year? Huh? You tell me?
Good.
Jason, that's not worth $320 an hour.
Well, here's what you could afford.
Yeah. And so you have to really be good at delivering this. The other thing you have to be great at doing is hearing what's not said. Paying attention with who's not paying attention in this room. Who's on their computer, looking at their computer. Who's not listening? What are they aren't saying? Whose attention don't I have? Because when you're in a room commanding a deal, this $6 million sale, we were in this room with two opposing attorneys and my client and another party. And I'd already set up with my client the nuclear option. The nuclear option is, when we got back from a break, it's been nice. We walked for the door. We didn't get the door handle. And somebody says, so what do you want? But the owner with me had to be willing to walk to the door handle with me. He couldn't be going, well, maybe not. He had to be willing. That was the nuclear option. We set it up before. I said, if we need to, we'll pull the nuclear option. I call it. Why am I calling it? He's emotionally involved. And what did I want? I wanted $6 million cash, no installments.
Not like he had a bad business going anyways. That's why he had an offer.
Yeah.
So you're going to take the best offer and you're going to balk. You're going to give in and you're going to settle. Otherwise, you do the nuclear option, you walk away with the deal you wanted.
But it takes guts.
Yeah.
And it took him guts to listen to me, to hear him say, what? Because, they were offering 5.5 and 3-year payout. And I said, no. We want $6 million cash hard. Nothing left on the table. We did have to leave $250,000 contingency fund on the table, and because they bought the company as was, type of a thing, a stock purchase, which is very rare. So that's what my business is like. That's what I get involved with. That's what it can be. Most other CPAs in Salt Lake don't do what I do. I'm an anomaly. Why did I learn that? Because I wanted to learn the why. It was drilled into me to know the why, not just the how. You guys can learn how to pass a test. You guys can learn how to write a paper. You can learn how to get an A from him. Why? How? Because when you offer this as a service to a customer, you've got to be able to go farther and farther and farther.
So instead of a standard CPA accounting firm that you were running, you're actually specializing in taking a company's books and formulating it all legally to appropriate data to make a sales pitch to somebody that wants to buy that company. Is that what you were doing?
Well, in that case that I gave that example of, yeah.
Okay.
Most of my customers are privately owned customers, family businesses, and guess what happens? They're like college people. They get in school and it's just safe here, it's easy. I'm involved, I've picked this major, I'll go this way today. And so I get involved because now they've been in business 10 years and they're working hard and they're not making enough money. And so then I get involved with them and I say something like this, Max, now that you've been in business 10 years and you're doing okay, I mean, you got an okay house and you got an okay car and truck and, you're okay. Is this going to be enough?
probably.
Yeah, see, that's the answer, right? American Dream, probably, that's a nice answer. Max, are you going to be able to send your kids to college of their choice and have the money?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well then he's probably not a good candidate. Max, I'm going to pass you up. I'm looking for the person who wants to pass on the business, who wants to do more, who doesn't want to be just another business person. And that's not everybody. I mean, in fact, I tell every one of my customers, you won't like me. Because here's the deal. You can imagine, can't you, Mandy? Here's the deal. I am your coach. Now, I come from a military background, and in the military, there was the Marines, and they had a drill instructor, and everybody hated the drill instructor. What's a drill instructor like? You were in the military, Charles?
You really want to know?
Yeah, exactly, right? You're not going to like them. So here's the deal if you hire me, and if we go to work together. You will give me your phone number. I can call you at 24 hours a day. Is that okay? You just hired me. Yep. So you'll give me the phone number that I can call you at 24 hours a day. And in return, my cell phone is on all the time with the exception when I'm lecturing like this, and then I have it on silent. And you can call me. And by your house, what's the closest 24-hour restaurant?
There's a JCW.
Good. So if I call you at 2 o'clock in the morning, I expect you there within 30 minutes. I'm billing you $320 an hour. And if you say no, I said, great, you don't want me as your CPA. Now, why do I say that? If I'm more worried about his business, because if your manager or something I become aware of and you're not willing to show up, I don't want to worry about you. But if I'm going to worry about you that much and you're going to show up, we're going to make things happen. And so we take businesses from $20, $30 million to hundreds of millions of dollars, if they want to.
You got to look at it from both sides. That $320 an hour just to go and meet at 2 in the morning for lunch. I mean, it's a win-win for both parties. You're getting paid, but you could either be saving him from being penalized by the IRS for a bad tax return, thousands, or you could be catching something that could make him thousands and make him more.
That's the whole goal. And
it's a win-win.
And if I can't deliver, he'll fire me, and he should.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
In fact, when I bill a customer, one of my deals when I bill a customer, I just sent a customer a bill for $8,000. He says, I can't believe it. I don't think it's worth that. I said, great. You write on it what you think it's worth and send it back to me with a check. Now, he hasn't done it yet. And I didn't tell you the other part of the story, because depending on what he says, and I expect him to give me an explanation, he's an ex-customer, but I got some money out of him. So it is a win-win, going back to that explanation. But I don't mess around. I got him a license at the state of Utah for a business he's in because I went the extra mile. And if it's not worth $8,000, I'm not going to do that again. So it's that kind of a thing you've got to do. And why did I do that? Because I made sure I knew the outcomes. I've never had a loan officer by a banker turned down because we make sure the financial statement we does will qualify for the loan. We make sure we know the end result. Same thing with the IRS. We're really, really tough when it comes to dealing with taxes.
So are you doing your own underwriting as well?
No. But we coordinate that with people we know. So I've done a lot of talking. So you guys all have questions. I've said a lot of things some of you will disagree with. That's fine. In fact, if you have guts to disagree, I'd appreciate it because I have something to learn myself. So anybody have any questions, any comments?
Can you elaborate on when you were talking about raising your hourly rate and getting what gets you scared, what gets you uncomfortable? How do you mean? Like, what was it that you were looking for? What was the you were looking at a number that gets you scared? What was it that you were meant to be kind of scared of, made uncomfortable by?
Yeah. So, you check with your peers. And your peers say, oh, I'm billing $125 an hour, or $50 an hour, or $90 an hour. And that sounds like a lot of money, but I don't bill. I can't bill all my hours. I work a lot of hours. I work in excess of the 2080. 2080 is 40 times 52. I'm a 3,000 hour a year guy. But I don't bill 3,000 hours a year. And so what I've got to do is make sure I set my wage high enough. I'm going to make, for my hours, make the kind of money I want to make. And I want to make good money. Okay, I'm very proud of what I make, and I want to make good money.
150.
Huh?
I said I bet it's over 150.
Twice that, maybe. I want to make good money. And why do I want to make good money? Because I'm putting...
Do you have a master's?
No, just at Harvard, the OPM, which is owner, president, manager, of course. You know, I wish I had a master's. If I had it to do again, I would take a break and go get my master's. I would take a break and I would go to Harvard. Best thing I ever did. I'll tell you how I went to Harvard. As you drive up and down the freeway, you'll see signs called Garbett. Garbett Homes, G-A-R-B-E-T-T. He advertises, you know, very solar efficient or energy efficient homes. And a long time ago, this guy called Bryson Garbett calls me. Doesn't mean a thing because he didn't have the signs on the freeway. I need a bond. Got it. So I go meet with him. And we determined to do his financial statement so we can get a bond. And so when I meet with him, he's driving a Volvo car, not a truck. This doesn't make sense. You're a contractor. No, don't even own a skill saw. Really? Don't even own a skill saw? No, why would, if I own a skill saw, I'd have to use it. I'm a businessman. What do? We build apartments. Okay. And then we turn them, at the time there's special tax law, then we turn them into condos and then we sell them. Make a lot of money and it's, you know, Bastille. Great. So by chance, he'd gone to this OPM program, owner, president, manager. You have to have 10 years experience, have other qualifications. So he and I talked. And sure enough, I signed up. Now it's the craziest program in the world. There's no homework. Absolutely no homework. You're in a room, not unlike this, but there's 120 of us. They break us into rooms of 60. People from internationally, from Russia, from China, South America, Australia. Just unbelievable. But in Harvard, you have to show up even bigger than I'm talking about showing up because you have to have done your homework. Because the professor seems to know a way of picking you out and naming you and calling you on the carpet. And now all of a sudden you're in front of 59 of your peers, extremely embarrassed. And in fact, they even developed a term called the Harvard Pass, and they won't allow you to do the Harvard Pass, and the Harvard Pass goes something like this. Ma'am, can you help me on this answer? And the professor would say, no, make Mr. Leverich do it, because did he not do his homework? So we'd be up just unbelievable hours. We were only in class for 3 weeks, and then we take a break, and we're in class for 3 weeks, and then we take a break, and then we're in class for 3 weeks. I just got back in February of this year from a 2-week trip to India. One of our classmates, you know, in your car, you have this little ratchet device that holds up your seatbelt, right, that pulls it back up. Odds are it was made by my classmate from India. He has 62% of the world market. And that's what he makes, is that and a lot of other devices. He has 20 factories in the world. And I met him at Harvard. And I got to spend time in his home, time with his family. Got to see what India was like from a different perspective because he is unquestionably the 10th of 1%, I mean, you know, type of a thing. And so you get to see those kinds of experiences, which I wouldn't have done even getting my MBA from the most prestigious BYU or University of Utah or whatever it is. So am I happy I did it? I'm way happy I did it. I owe it all to Bryson Garbett. He's a good close friend. He's not my client, but I really respect him a lot. But he thinks very strategically. He still doesn't own a skill saw or a truck. Sir?
I want to be a CPA. I want to go do something while I'm in school to begin with. Maybe do it at night or in the morning or something. Is there a lower level of what you do that you don't have to have as high a degree as what you do?
Yeah, you do it one step at a time. So today to be a CPA, you got to go get your master's throughout the country. So you go and get an accounting job. Preferably, you get skilled enough that you can get into some kind of a company like a CPA firm, a bookkeeping firm, a tax firm, and you start off there. But then you don't stop. You have to keep on raising that level and raising that level and raising that level so that you're going to that next higher level. Because most CPAs, what happens is this: there ain't a book for us, guys. There's not a college course for us. We graduate, we start our own CPA firm, and many of my peers, they're way happy being CPAs that work like this. From January to May, they bust their butt. And then they golf, get that early ski season in, and then January to May, they bust their butt. And they're making okay money, and they're happy with that. I wasn't. I was raised in a different deal, different time, wanted to be something more than that. And by the way, I didn't ski or play golf, so it didn't work for me, type of a thing. But I like the idea of learning. I love the idea of learning. And so going back to your situation, and all of us, Miss Lynn, you wanted to become a business owner. You start off, I started off selling worms commercially. So I was in school, University of Utah. One of my professors says, I want to do something, so we started a worm farm. Now, this is like being in the Navy, because although I was out of the Navy and I'm in college, do you know what worms eat? Manure. So we found this old apartment that we could rent, the garage, put up the 4x8s, filled it full of good food for the worms, which meant I filled it full of good food for the worms, and bought worms that were flown in from Texas. And we failed miserably. But he wanted to fish, and it sounded like a good deal. He was my professor, so I trusted him. And I've had a lot of other business enterprises I've tried and failed, type of a thing. And you can't go against who you are. So that's one of the things I think I have in my paper, but you have to find out who you are. I mean, look inside yourself deep. I talked about being a salesman and the management person saying being a salesman. I can now knock on doors. I can now make a phone call, but it's taken me years to overcome that reluctance of picking up the phone and saying, sir, can I talk to you about accounting? What I found out is I don't want to talk to you about accounting, Josh. What I want to talk to you about is your business and where is it going? Because accounting then just rules it to that subject. So you have to get brave enough to overcome those things. I mean, I'm an old guy, and I'm just getting brave enough now. I take sales training once a week, 2 hours a week, every week. Why? I gotta remember how to do it. I gotta remember how to make the close. I gotta remember how to not paint myself in a box, so my only way out is to have you say, it's over. In fact, if you say it's over, Mainly? So you're a customer of mine, and you say no. Say no. No. So Mainly, so I know, is it over? No, it's not over? No. Oh, you see what I just did? She told me it's over. I could have said, okay, thank you. I said, is it over? She said, no. What does no mean for me? Oh, it's still an open end. I can still talk to her. There was a time when if you would have said no, and we're talking about selling you something or some business relationship as a CPA, I would have said, okay, bye. So that's where you have to be tough and learn in negotiation. That's the other biggest thing that I learned at Harvard was negotiation. How to successfully negotiate. And if I can encourage you to do anything, is to develop skills, my point 5. So leadership. Learn to be a great leader. And it's learned. You weren't, none of the people we think are, were born as leaders, they became leaders. Accountability. First of all, for yourself. Become accountable for yourself. The grades, the papers you do, be accountable. This is life. This is real life. You're in a dress rehearsal. You're doing a dress rehearsal. One day, the dress rehearsal will be over with. One day, you're going to graduate. One day, you'll be employed by somebody. And guess what they're going to expect you to do? Do it for real. And so being accountable is really important. Communication. Our biggest failure in life is our inability to communicate. How do we do it? How does your generation communicate? What do you call it? SMS or text or something? Huh? Is that what you call it? Can you do a $6 million deal by texting? Maybe. I mean, I'm sure it's been done.
Put LOL on it.
Yeah. But the point is you got to be able to communicate, and not the way you want to be communicated to, the way you need to communicate to the people you're dealing with. And how much is lost in an email or a text? Listen, written and verbal. We don't know how to listen. We don't even know how to hear. And so we don't pay enough attention. As important as listening is what's not said. What's not said. Were they really paying attention? Decision making is so comfortable. You know, we're all in the same company. We're all going to make a deal. So we're going to do this vote. And when we do a vote, what do we get? We get the least common denominator. We're not taking risk. We're not being leaders. So you have to be able to make decisions and go against the tide. Ethical, it goes without saying.
Pretty important, isn't it?
It's very important. You got the book by John Huntsman. One of his books before was about being ethical. He was actually a college professor when I was at the University of Utah, back when he was kind of a nobody, and so was his brother Blaine. And you need to be ethical. And you'll be given lots of chances not to be ethical. Just innumerable chances. And what's worse is it's you that's going to be the one that's given the opportunity. Many times people don't ask you to push that button that hard. Negotiation I mentioned. Know your numbers. Now when I say know your numbers, that's not just accounting numbers. How many hours are you going to work? What kind of commitment are you going to make? What are you going to be doing to get ahead? Develop and grow business employees and partners. Most of us are afraid to do that. Education. I told you about going to Harvard. I take 80 hours of continuing professional education a year. My profession requires me to take 40. Why do I take 80? Yep. I have to be that person in my office that goes farther. I have to be that person who knows that extra few things. Now, I'm old enough, I could say, I'm going to rely on one of you. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be that person who goes that farther distance. I've got to know the whys. So I want to leave you with that last quote from Steve Jobs that's on the bottom of the page under 10. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. We can't see forward, ladies and gentlemen. We can see really well backwards. You can tell me what you didn't do 10 years ago or in college or high school or whatever class you didn't do, but we can't look forward. But what gets us forward is this, having that belief, having the goals, having those things. And that's what gets us forward. And you have to have them. There's no course for that. There's no book for that. You have to be able to do it yourself. Thank you.
Joe has covered a lot of important points today. It's a great summary for what you've learned over this semester. In fact, I would say that it's an excellent summary, Joe.
Thank you.
And this is a man that lives by his word. He has integrity. He has follow-up. He does the best he can for that customer. As you get into your businesses, if you're going into business for yourself, or if you're working for someone else with the idea that you will take over that company, the points that he has on there are things that you will need to know and work with. And one of those is follow-up, and communication is very important, as you pointed out, as is integrity. And getting to know yourself is probably one of the most critical things. That can be very painful. We all had to go through that, didn't we? So I think give yourselves a hand for finishing strong, and give Joe Leverich another hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick.